We've got a summary report here. And again, I'm just kind of looking at central orchestration. I can see my usage over time, top clients, all that kind of stuff. Traditionally, you'd have to have some kind of third-party software to monitor this stuff for you to get that end-to-end visibility. But with Meraki and with Cisco's SD-WAN products, the visibility is baked in, right? They're the closest to the actual traffic, and they can give you the best reporting. Zero-touch provisioning, right? Basically means I've got my box. It can be shipped directly from the manufacturer to the site that it needs to go to, and they plug it in, and it calls home to the internet. You know, with Cisco, it's either Meraki's dashboard or Viptela's cloud, and it will register essentially with your organization, and then you can go and configure it from there. As long as we've got a DHCP address and have internet access, that device will call home and we can configure it remotely, right? So you don't have to travel 10 minutes down the road, an hour down the road, 10 hours across, you know, flights and all that kind of stuff. Just ship the box out there, have somebody plug it in, and you're off and running. Along with that, to manage all these different locations, we need some kind of central repository for looking at them. So it's probably a little hard from the back, but this is actually NSI's implementation of Meraki SD-WAN. And we've got plenty of boxes out. A number of our employees have you know, an MX at their own home. And so we facilitate a lot of different connectivity also between our primary locations. We've got connectivity, and they're all spun together, and it was ship it out and plug it in, please, and we're off and running. All right, 2013. The challenges we saw were secure connectivity out to those remote home users. So a couple of things as I look at that: technical support, no visibility. What can Meraki do for me in answering this challenge? Well, I've got ZTP again. I'm going to ship it out to the home user. I need that centralized orchestration again. But a couple other things come into play. One of the challenges I might have with support is we just have multiple different internet connections. So one of the core tenets of SD-WAN is this ability to support pretty much any circuit you throw at it, right? Now I've listed two of them here: traditional MPLS. We can also support broadband internet. Broadband internet comes in more and more different forms, right? We have you know, typical Ethernet handoff. We've got DSL coming in. We've got more and more cellular. We'll see the rise of 5G over the next few years here, I imagine. Any kind of internet that you bring into these devices, they're going to terminate, build a connection out, and we can use them as a transport mechanism. So no difference really from our perspective whether it's an MPLS circuit or a broadband. Now, and that's going to help us certainly in supporting those home users. I don't know what they have, right? But again, we'll plug it in, it'll build the connection, we go from there. Now, you know, this graph is excellent. It talks about, you know, high throughput MPLS tends to be more costly. Maybe a good topology, a way to provide cost savings to you guys, is to split that out and have a, you know, a lower throughput MPLS and a general broadband. I almost wish that they had taken this broadband and made it larger, because generally you're getting quite a bit more bandwidth, more bang for your buck on that pipe than you would out of an MPLS. And that's what we look for to send more non-critical loads, I guess, I'll say. Some backup traffic that we need a good pipe of bandwidth to get across the link. But if there's a little bit of loss or delay, no big deal. For my more critical traffic, I might rely on that MPLS, where I know I've got low latency. I know I've got low loss and that kind of thing. If you can get a good broadband circuit, we really don't need MPLS. SD-WAN will take care of balancing the load between the two circuits, and it'll monitor end-to-end what the latency and loss and jitter is on those circuits. And you can say, hey, I want to apply policies that move my traffic back and forth as needed. I have a customer now that has two poor broadband circuits, and that we're stuck with 2 broadband circuits. So I'd caution you a little bit in that. But if you can get a decent internet circuit, that can be used all the same. How does this work in Meraki? So we've got a summary report here. And again, I'm just kind of looking at central orchestration. I can see my usage over time, top clients, all that kind of stuff. Traditionally, you'd have to have some kind of third-party software to monitor this stuff for you to get that end-to-end visibility. But with Meraki and with Cisco's SD-WAN products, the visibility is baked in, right? They're the closest to the actual traffic, and they can give you the best reporting. We also have layer 7 traffic analytics. Now that is a leg up on traditional, like a SolarWinds, for example, monitoring, which if you got some NetFlow data, you'd get it, but it's simple here. It's baked in. I can see, this was actually taken yesterday morning. Around here at 8 o'clock, people started to come in, and our Windows file sharing services increased as people connected their machines and that kind of thing, right? So great visibility built in is going to allow you guys to troubleshoot quickly. You've got historical data. It's not just kind of point in time, I need to troubleshoot this now. Ton of visibility. All right, let's move on to 2014. Now I'm adding the guest wireless. I'm facing limited bandwidth. What do I do with those users? Again, we come back to centralized orchestration and visibility. Within Meraki, and I guess I'll pause. Sometimes I feel like you go through Meraki demos and it's almost too simple that it's hard to remember. This is it, right? You go in under the policy section. There's a part that says global bandwidth limits, and you move that slider back and forth. I only want to give 5 megs per client. 3 megs, 10 megs, 20 megs, set your level. You can enable speed burst, give them a little 15-second boost, for downloads or that kind of thing. But overall, we're going to limit their bandwidth, giving me way better control than anything I ever had on a traditional WAN platform. I can go in here and set policies. Now I went in and said, okay, rule number 1. All video and music, I started to type in Netflix, Hulu, YouTube, HBO Go, all these kind of streaming services. The reality is your users are coming in and they want to use that stuff, right? And they don't think twice about the impact that it might have on business relevant traffic in that circuit. So it's kind of up to us to apply some enforcement here. Again, there's just a little slider. I can set it back and forth. Whatever policy you guys want to push down, it's there. You're able to push it down. And that can be, consistent across 1, 10, 100, 1,000 branches as needed. Very, very simple and straightforward and to the point. That's kind of Meraki's MO. And then last but not least, I guess I'll just give this layer 7 visibility. So we can see on a per client basis, if you are suffering some kind of constraints, I can go and see who the top talkers are. And this is one of my favorite things within Meraki's dashboard. You merely slide down. I've got my mouse hovering over this user, and you can see it's kind of highlighted in orange. Well, this is an aggregate graph of all the throughput. And I can just highlight for that one user. We can see his traffic going up and down on that the orange part on the graph. I've also got application information. There's plenty more within the Meraki dashboard, but I felt like these were kind of some of the highlights that you can get out of it. Guest wireless, necessary evil. All right, let's move on to 2015. I've added a secondary internet circuit at this point. So the challenges that go along with that, truck rolls again. So we're going to see ZTP come into play, zero touch provisioning, anytime I want to get around that. Segmenting traffic, we've seen that a little bit with the policies already. Transport independence comes in again. Reality is I may not be able to get the same internet circuit at each one of these locations, right? I may not be able to get the same throughput. I can get 5 megs at one site and 20 megs at another site. Doesn't matter. We'll use it however it is. That's all centrally managed and configured within the dashboard. And I mean it. Zero touch provisioning. This box is already in place. I've got WAN 1. Here's WAN 2. this took me 30 seconds. Click on the box, plug the IP in, a VLAN if you've got it, depends. Subnet mask, gateway, DNS for that. Now you've got a secondary internet connection. I talked about keeping it simple. Now we got to build VPN tunnels between all these locations. That's a hassle, right? Well, this is a snapshot of the Meraki page. They have site-to-site VPN. You can be off, you can be a hub, or you can be a spoke. Check the box, and it builds the VPN tunnels for you. Then you can come in and say what networks you want to share or don't share across the VPN tunnel. With some basic understanding of networking and this dashboard, you can get through these pretty quickly. And last but not least, we've got a graph here that just kind of shows the VPN connectivity between the sites. Kind of an interesting graph as far as it being circular, but it's there to see. All right, so that is SD-WAN 1.0, and kind of provides the base feature set, right? And for that, I'm talking about zero-touch provisioning, where I don't have to go out and be on site to install any of these boxes. I can just have somebody local do it. Centralized orchestration, which includes a couple different things, right? It includes the management of the device, the configuration of the device, the centralized reporting. We saw a few of those screens. Transport independence. Any connection we plug into it, for the most part, as long as we get an address, we can then use that as a transport between locations. And then finally, visibility, I would say, is that final component to it, where we've got baked-in monitoring software. Meraki will also do alerting, by the way. So all of those features you've come to expect from monitoring are baked in here. We can do remote traffic captures. There's a long list of things that Meraki provides to the typical troubleshooting engineer that make their life much easier.